now that McCabe's gone, Rosenstein has to go.
Do you have to? Okay, now let's stop right there. Do I have to throw him completely under the bus? Do I need criminal allegations? I mean, what will satisfy people?
I think that we're in a place where we're almost in waters that I hate using the word, but with the way that you hear these pundits, the Democratic pundits, throw the word around like it's an easy word to say. I'm gonna say we're dipping our toes in the waters of treason here, Lee.
Yeah, but it's never going to happen.
Well, I hear people say that a lot, and I also heard people say a lot that Trump would never get elected. And I'm sure in France, the elite never thought that the French Revolution was going to happen and their heads were going to get cut off. What happens is the political winds shift and shit changes, man. We're in this mindset in America that we have this we're above and beyond and above board the drastic changes that have taken place in other countries, but we're not. We've seen that with just a little bit of discomfort what happened in the streets during these elections. Can you imagine, Lee? Think about it for a minute. Can you imagine the shock of the people, the rank and file person that turn on their TV and they see the second guy in the FBI have charges put on him for attempting to subvert an election? Talk about a mass red pilling, and it'll be the best thing that ever happened to America, because guess what? We need to have the hard conversations. We need to discuss things that are tough to discuss, and we need to do it as adults. We need to be able to respect each other enough to at least have the discussion, or else we have two different governments running the same country, and that's not going to end well. It never has throughout history.
So how does it all end? Do we get the memo plus the surprise that Morgan Freeman is a pedophile? I don't think Scott Baio getting thrown under the bus by Nicole Eggert is going to be compelling enough. Yeah, it's not big enough. It's entertaining, not big enough.
Definitely entertaining, right?
Especially now that she's. I'll say it for the female listeners. Now that she's fat and nobody really wants her anyway. The Baywatch years are behind her. Please send all your hate mail to challengethenarrative@gmail.com.
I just saw a bunch of heads light on fire under vag hats, bro.
Whatever. Yeah, hate all you want, all right? I'm just giving it the way it truly is.
Speaking of that, we got to talk about something just real quick.
Yeah.
I have a real problem here when I keep hearing about this so-called resistance. What exactly are people resisting? They're not resisting anything. What rights have been taken away from anybody? In fact, rights have been expanded. If learning about these egregious invasions of the American public's privacy with this mass surveillance should be the top story on every single news channel. But instead, the people tuck their head in the sand and they go on and they just jump on this wagon and they think it's, we're resisting Trump this, Trump that. Brr. Really what you're doing, it's your live action role playing when you go out to your silly little resistance festival and you yell at the sky and nobody's taking you serious anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know if they're actually getting the media coverage that they're after. I mean, I get that we live now in a world where everything is streamed all the time and you literally, anything you say will come back to bite you in the ass, period. I just saw a piece by Kathy Griffin where she wants back in and she wants a second shot. Well, men get a second shot.
Yeah, why not?
No, I don't think Bill Cosby's getting a second shot. I'm just being perfectly honest. I don't think that's happening for you, Kathy. You can't threaten death on the commander-in-chief. Nobody's really no, sorry.
That's not going to work out for her.
So I guess the question is, in a society that is that, we live in a transparent society, whether or not we want to accept it. The question is, can you accept both sides and see everything for what it is, and therefore formulate an opinion instead of I will say this, I am disturbed by, I want to say millennials, but that's not really fair. Whatever that generation is, whatever it is, that group of individuals that feels that the left is always correct. I don't want to say the left is right. The left is always correct, right? No matter what it is. We need to be sensitive, to transgender people. No, I really don't. I think that I think I'm allowed to have my opinion, and I'm going to say it for the record. Caitlyn was better looking as a man. I mean, she's just got to deal with that.
Yeah. It's crazy to me. You know, you got these people now that are trying to tell me that an 8 or 9-year-old kid can decide if he or she wants to be a boy or a girl, whatever they want to decide they don't want to be. But you got to be 21 years old to have a drink.
Right.
So you can make the decision.
My kid can make the switch at 8 while he's under parental control. It's going a little far. It's a lot far. But here's the part that blows my mind. It's obvious we live in that society. We live in a wiki world, right? We've been in a wiki world for a while. How did everybody think that they could play power games and not get caught?
Because they never thought they were going to lose the election.
That's literally all this came down to. It's just paperwork that was left behind on the desk.
You know, she crapped out. Obama crapped out. He should have never, ever. He knew what he was dealing with Hillary Clinton, the way she came after him. She was the one who started the whole he was born in Kenya thing during the 2008 election. So, you know, people seem to forget a lot of these Johnny-come-latelys that have just jumped on the politics wagon. You know, I'm not trying to demean anyone's opinion because everyone's opinion's important. But this is what you need to realize in politics. Your opinion's fine, but facts are what really move the debate. That's the vehicle that gets things going. If you're going to come in and you're going to have an emotional argument and you're going to attack somebody's character and you're not going to deal in policy, well, you're never going to be taken seriously. And that's what's going on now. You have a lot of these people that don't really understand all the nuances of what's going on and what's led up to this whole entire situation. Just, you know, throwing in full and 100% behind a woman like Hillary Clinton, who's literally, honestly, Lee, and I'm not saying this because she's a Democrat or anything like that. She's literally one of the most vile human beings I've ever studied.
The one thing that I've noticed from her, she appears to be a little power hungry. I don't know her personally. Her behavior and her husband's behavior of keeping messes under wraps is almost legendary at this point. I mean, every joke people make about cars being chased off the road tends to come back to bite. Like, how many people did they make disappear in that real estate scandal?
Yeah, the Whitewater
right.
adventure.
Everybody just disappeared.
I mean, you got so many people. I think there's a documentary on YouTube called The Clinton Body Count, where it goes into all of that stuff. And you know, it's pretty crazy when you get you commit suicide with 2 bullet shots to the back of your head. You know, it's a little crazy way to go.
And that's what I mean. I mean, we're talking about people getting legitimately and tangibly thrown under the bus. I'm just wondering who has to take the bullet for the team to make this thing fly.
Well, I think that what's gonna end up going on, like you all know, with the justice system, they're gonna start rounding people up and they're gonna put the screws to people. And we're not talking about local, the first 48 hours screws to you. This is federal. And if this turns out to be treason, guess where they can put these people? They could go to Gitmo.
You know, it's amusing to me that Donald's original stance on this whole thing, his original stance was, I'm just going to let it go. And basically found a memo on his desk. Yep.
And, you know, here's the thing with Donald Trump, too. People seem to forget, he's not a conservative. The biggest problem coming into the election cycle was he wasn't a conservative, so people were worried he wouldn't be able to rally the evangelical base. But what Donald Trump is he's a smart man, like you and I have discussed, as a businessman. He understands. He'll say these bombastic things about, you know, immigration, and then he'll offer 1.8 million DACA kids residency. And then he puts the Democrats in a real terrible position. And that's the kind of stuff that Donald Trump is really good at doing. He's not some crazy zealot that they're making him out to be. And I'll tell you what, man, that what they're really setting themselves up for maybe getting a complete a whitewashing in the midterms, where they lose seats where they thought they were going to pick them up.
Okay, so let's go, while we're at this point, let's go back to State of the Union last night. You watched it. Zapruder film style, I'm sure.
Yep.
What are the takeaways from last night?
Very powerful speech. He did a very good job. He brought it to the center for the most part. You know, he wasn't the hard-nosed Donald Trump, I guess you'd say General Patton style last night. Very promising about the future, going through a lot of the I like the way he was going through a lot of the successes of the first year. That needs to be talked about more. And just today, you got McDonald's talking about they're opening 1,000 new stores in America now. So these kind of things need to be talked about more and a lot less. And I think, this is why I'm so fired up about the fake dossier, because it really takes away from the country moving forward and from us really prospering as a country and as all of us together. I'm not just talking about, people who voted for the guy, because if we could get on with the actual stories that matter, the things that are going on in the world, we're all going to be way better off. But instead, they have so much in the game now with this dossier that no matter what Trump does, no matter the olive branch he extends like he did last night, there's going to be those that have so much egg on their face that they can't accept it, and they have to fight it to the bitter end at this point. Okay,
well, let me play devil's advocate at this point. Is Donald doing such a good job that the memo is the ploy and the smokescreen? There's a conspiracy for you.
Yeah, hey, look, I think it's really...
That's a reverse... That is seriously reverse engineering. I mean, if his presidency becomes about paperwork and details of cleaning up the DNC and nobody ever actually gets to see, finished product of what he did or any of the stimulus packages... You tell me.
Look, really what I think is going on right now with this guy, and you would ask me a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, how I felt about Trump, I would have laughed at you. I would have said there's no way that this guy could navigate the waters of D.C. and not get swept over by some smarmy ass politician like they've tried to do to him. But you know what he's done? He showed up, instead of showing up in a rowboat, he showed up in one of the ironclasts from the old days in the Civil War, and he's just mowing down people like he just doesn't give a shit at this point when anybody says or thinks about him. He's moving forward with his policies. And if you look at the numbers from last night, 75% of the people polled on CBS were impressed with his statements and the way the things are going. And I think that once we get this Russia thing out of the way, it's going to be an unfettered march towards economic dominance, at least for the next 7 years.
Well, that's my question. Can there be enough drama produced so that we can just slide Oprah in right behind him?
No, I don't think that's ever going to happen.
But with Oprah, I mean her more as a representation. I'm sure there's a Democratic version of Oprah that's beloved by millions that doesn't even have to have a policy that would make a wonderful, wonderful Democratic puppet.
Well, I'll tell you, I've said this for a very long time. I said it since Trump won the election. Don't be surprised if Michelle Obama throws her hat into the ring.
She works. But if there's egg on her face from if his presidency has egg on his face, how does she get around it?
The same way Hillary Clinton did with Bill Clinton's. The people love her. So when you have a rabid fan base, a rabid base of 35 million strong, that's pumping out garbage propaganda on a regular basis, because we all know that's what the news does for the Democrats. That's all you have to do is watch what's going on right now. The news as the fourth estate, they have a responsibility to the public, and they're not meeting with their responsibilities. They have really stepped on the collective dick of the American public.
All right. And lastly, let's wrap up with another follow-up. 300 pages have been released from our first episode. Since we last talked to you all, now we've got 300 pages that have been released in regards to the Las Vegas shooting, or what is the politically correct term? Because that's really...
I don't even think they have they don't even talk about
Vegas
it on the news.
I think you're not allowed to say it. So you say Vegas Strong or something, but
the Vegas Massacre.
The Vegas whatever. The thing nobody talks about unless you're in Vegas. Like Vegas is the only place that talks about it anymore. The rest of the country, sadly, it's not a top story. So they released 300 pages, and I am still just completely fascinated with where are the images? Where's the video? What the fuck's going on? You're talking about a hotel that's covered in cameras. 300 pages. We've got a gun dealer. We've got, Mr. Brown in the library with a